Saladin, of Kurdish origin, was born around the year 1137 in the city of Tikrit in Upper Mesopotamia. What shaped the quiet young boy who would one day become the most respected leader in both the Muslim and Christian worlds? How did a child raised far from great capitals grow into a ruler known for honor, mercy, and unshakable faith? From an early age, Saladin was surrounded by a world of shifting loyalties, tribal rivalries, and rising empires. His father, Ayyub ibn Shadi, served as a military officer, and the family soon moved to Mosul and then Damascus. These cities were influential centers of learning, trade, and military strategy, and they exposed Saladin to a rich cultural and intellectual environment. Though raised in a military household, Saladin first showed interest in scholarship and religion. He studied the Quran, the sayings of the Prophet, mathematics, and Arab poetry. His teachers described him as gentle, thoughtful, and deeply committed to faith. Yet in these same cities, stories of the Crusaders and the loss of Jerusalem echoed constantly. Religious scholars spoke of courage, sacrifice, and the duty to defend what was sacred. These lessons shaped the young Saladin's understanding of leadership, responsibility, and purpose. Over time, his education, family legacy, and growing awareness of the world's conflicts began to pull him toward a life in command, not for power, but for a cause he believed was greater than himself. When Saladin entered Egypt in the late 1160s, he was still seen by many as a quiet and unassuming figure, overshadowed by stronger generals and powerful advisors. Yet the political situation in Egypt was unstable. The Fatimid Caliphate was weakening, rival factions competed for control, and Crusader armies constantly watched for any chance to seize advantage. In this complex environment, Saladin's calm judgment and steady loyalty made him increasingly trusted. At first, he served under his uncle Shirkuh, a commanding military leader sent to support Egyptian alliances. But when Shirkuh passed away, Saladin was unexpectedly appointed as vizier, a position of immense authority. Few expected him to succeed. He was a Sunni leader in a mostly Shia-led court, surrounded by rivals who doubted his strength. Still, he moved with patience rather than force. He reorganized the administration gradually, built new alliances, and won the respect of the army through fairness and discipline. As time passed, Saladin quietly strengthened Egypt's defenses, restored financial stability, and encouraged religious unity. He also began shifting Egypt back towards Sunni leadership, aligning it more closely with Damascus and the broader Muslim world. Because of this, the Crusaders now faced a growing and unified power rather than divided states. Through careful decisions, loyalty to principle, and steady leadership, Saladin transformed Egypt into the foundation of his rising influence, a base from which he would shape the future of the entire region. Once Egypt stood secure under his leadership, Saladin turned his attention toward Syria, where rival rulers still held strong influence. The region had been shaped by dynasties, loyalties, and old alliances that often conflicted with one another. Rather than rushing forward with force, Saladin used patience, diplomacy, and selective campaigns to build trust and reshape the political landscape. His goal was not just to expand territory, but to unite the Muslim world under a shared purpose. Damascus welcomed him first, recognizing his fairness and strength. Other cities resisted, fearing they would lose independence. In each place, Saladin balanced negotiation with strategic military pressure. If a city surrendered peacefully, he honored its leaders and traditions. If resistance was strong, he acted decisively, but with restraint. This approach earned him respect not only as a warrior, but as a statesman. During these years, Saladin also strengthened religious and educational institutions. Scholars, judges, and teachers were invited to cities under his rule. Mosques and schools were built or restored, emphasizing unity in belief and shared cultural identity. To many, he became a symbol of moral leadership, not just military authority. Although challenges remained from rival dynasties, Crusader forces, and internal disputes, Saladin's careful consolidation of Syria created a powerful and stable base. It marked the turning point where he transitioned from a rising leader to a figure recognized across the region as a guardian of faith, justice, and unity. As Saladin's influence grew across Egypt and Syria, the conflict with the Crusader states intensified. The Crusaders still controlled Jerusalem, a city deeply sacred to both Muslims and Christians. For many years, armies had clashed across the lands surrounding it, yet no clear victory had been achieved. Saladin believed that reclaiming Jerusalem was not simply a matter of war, but a moral duty tied to honor, faith, and unity. He carefully prepared for this effort. Alliances were strengthened, supplies were secured, and troops were trained with patience and discipline. Saladin avoided quick victories that might bring temporary gain but long-term instability. Instead, he waited for the right moment, one when his forces were ready and the Crusader leadership was divided. That moment came during the campaign leading to the Battle of Hattin. Through thoughtful planning, strategic positioning, and steady command, Saladin's forces overwhelmed the Crusader army. Many of their most important leaders were captured, leaving the remaining strongholds vulnerable. With this decisive victory, the path to Jerusalem opened. When Saladin entered Jerusalem, he did not allow the city to be harmed. There was no burning, no mass punishment, no revenge. Instead, he emphasized mercy and dignity, allowing many inhabitants to leave peacefully. This act surprised Europe and reshaped his reputation. Even his opponents were forced to acknowledge his character, calling him a leader who balanced power with compassion. Beyond the victories and alliances, Saladin's lasting influence came from the way he led. He believed that power was a responsibility, not a privilege. Those who served under him described him as patient, humble, and deeply committed to justice. He preferred negotiation over force whenever possible and encouraged forgiveness, even toward those who had opposed him. His daily life reflected discipline and modesty. He dressed simply, avoided unnecessary luxury, and gave generously to those in need. Saladin also supported scholars, poets, and teachers. He established schools to strengthen religious learning and encourage discussions among different scholars of Islamic law. His goal was not only to defend territory, but to guide society toward unity in belief and purpose. He saw leadership as both practical and spiritual. Even among his enemies, he earned admiration. Crusader chroniclers wrote of his fairness in negotiation and his restraint in victory. Stories spread of him returning captives to their families, ensuring the safety of pilgrims, and offering help to wounded soldiers regardless of their side. These actions were not gestures of weakness, but of principle, intended to demonstrate that true strength rises from character. Saladin's legacy grew not only from the land he governed, but from the example he set. His leadership became a model for future rulers who sought to balance power with mercy and faith with wisdom. In his later years, Saladin continued to face challenges from renewed Crusader efforts and shifting alliances across the region. The arrival of powerful European leaders led to intense campaigns, including battles along the coast and negotiations marked by pressure and exhaustion. Though the Crusaders regained some territory, they could not break Saladin's resolve or undo the unity he had worked so carefully to build. For him, the struggle was no longer only about cities or fortresses, but about protecting faith, dignity, and peace where possible. Despite the constant demands of leadership, Saladin never turned to personal wealth or comfort. His treasury was often nearly empty because he gave freely to those in need and supported his troops, scholars, and the poor. Those close to him noticed that his health began to weaken after many years of travel, command, and responsibility. Saladin passed away in Damascus in the early spring of 1193. When officials examined his remaining possessions, they found that he had so little money left that his funeral expenses required community support. This was a final reflection of the values he lived by: service, humility, and faith. His influence continued long after his lifetime. His name came to symbolize honor, leadership, and mercy, remembered by both allies and former enemies. His dream outlived him and changed history forever. Thanks for watching.